Hey, welcome to the Rooted book discussion. We're sitting down and talking through each of the chapters in my book, Rooted, with some of my good friends who have been on the journey with me. And
we are not hired actors.
Not hired actors, as well as just walk through their own process. We're gonna be talking about chapter 4, Nothing to Prove, and really just the concept that we're talking about that. Again, the first 6 chapters of the book is really about the process that God uses to develop the root system in your life. So whenever a seed's planted, the next step is not fruit, the next step is roots, and the Lord uses a process, usually underground, usually hidden, usually a little bit messy, not linear, and He uses that process to develop roots. In that process, one of the things that can happen is that there can be pressure that comes on us if we don't. There can be pressure that comes on us if we don't actually learn how to rest, which again, this is a little bit tied to the chapter before about trust, that you can trust Him and rest, but that even in the midst of a storm, Jesus was able to sleep, which is pretty profound. So just the concept of being able to actually find rest in the process and not allowing yourself to step into pressure that's not even from God.
I love what you said about God is the architect. He's the financial backer, the owner, the foreman, the building crew. That really, really spoke to me because I think as we put pressure on our lives as far as like what we're called to do and where we're going to build this thing and to open up the doors and to plow our way through, and God is the builder. He's the one that is, He's everything in this process. Our job is to simply go to submit and go, okay, I submit to you in this process. I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna be obedient to you, what you tell me to do. And
And what we're talking about there is, the Bible says that unless the Lord builds the house, they build it in vain. And the concept of allowing the Lord, if you're really going to be able to rest and trust Him in the process, you have to understand He'll build the house. We have something where we're like, I'm gonna go make it happen. I've got a vision, I've got a dream, and I'm gonna go make it happen. And I'm for hard work. I'm for hustle. But there's this line sometimes that, especially in Western culture, that's like, well, I'm just gonna go make it happen. And we sometimes, hurt the process that God's trying to develop our lives because we don't just allow Him to build it.
You say that God's always nudging us into areas where we need greater faith. But the counterpart to that is in those areas where you need greater faith, you're obviously going to be in over your head. It's obviously going to be a little riskier, a little scarier, but you're supposed to have rest. Like, how can I be put in situations where I need greater faith, but then rest? It's that whole sleeping through the storm thing. I am not a storm sleeper. I am like a storm freaker outer. Like, oh my gosh.
A tree is going to fall on us.
Last night, we're getting all this rain right now in California, and last night, it's like pounding against the window, and I like wide awake from like 2 to 3, just, I'm like, okay, just sleep through the storm, literally. And I was just starting to think about, we're doing this study, and I'm like, man, so many storms I have not slept through.
I'm not a storm sleeper, I'm a storm freaker outer.
And we could have, right?
Yeah, and then it passes. My mom always says this thing, it always works out. And it's like my most annoying phrase. I hate when she says that, but it really does. She didn't say it from like a Lord standpoint, but from, it does. Like it's in the Bible everywhere. He works things, for the good.
Yeah.
And, you always challenge me. Has the Lord ever let you down? I'll be in a situation, I'm like, it's never going to work out, Banning.
He hasn't, but I know this one time.
Right.
There's a first for everything.
And you start to, you start to have me recount my scenarios. I'm like, you're right. There's never a storm that drowned me. There's never a storm that killed me. Nothing ever overtook my boat. Like, it has always passed, and I've always been okay. And I don't know, one day I will learn. I'm not there, but I will sleep through a storm, hopefully one day. And,
I need to write another book for you.
Sleeping through the storm.
That's all it is. Storm sleepers.
And so I'm kind of in that process right now. Like, okay, I want the Lord to put me in a situation so I can again try. I want to rest through it and not have such anxiety and pressure. That's not from Him. He's just calling us to rest.
I think there's a lot of pressure to know everything. You have to have an answer, or people ask you, even as a young person, you probably get asked, well, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do next? Or what college are you going to go to? And there's this pressure to have to know. And I think over my experience with working, I ran a convention center for a while, and I thought, what am I doing running a convention center? There's this whole facility, not just the community, but all this.
It was the largest convention center in our area, in the whole.
In Northern California. Yeah, for sure. But I thought, I don't know how to run a heating system or set up chairs or run the
Who doesn't?
So
Everybody knows how to do that.
I think that one of the most powerful phrases I learned and that helped me rest through the storm was, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have to know. I can find someone that does know. Yeah, and it just relieves that, okay, someone will know, just not me right now.
I think, Rob, you've walked through a lot of this. I think that one of the things that causes pressure in our life is that, again, it's a trust issue. We just don't trust that he's going to get us where he said he's going to get us. Yeah. And so we try to make it happen. We try to speed it up. We try to, kind of push this thing along. And what I've learned is that the Lord's really, really good at both opening doors and closing doors. Yeah. And he's also very, very good at getting us where he wants, when he wants, and how he wants us there. Yeah. And that's an intriguing process.
Yeah, he's so good to us. I mean, being in this process and being in ministry and having gone through struggles on my own ministry and walking other people through struggles in ministry.
In all areas of life.
You have these moments where you mess up, like maybe you were in the arena of like what you were passionate about, what you love doing, and you make mistakes, and and you get removed from it, or you have time away, and it's that knee-jerk reaction of like, I blew it, I messed it up. But the cool thing about the Lord and what I love that he does is like, he's like, I gave you this because this is what I have for you.
Redeems
like,
that stuff, yes.
You're not done here. I'm just going to now get you rooted and developed so that when I put you back there, you can sustain what I've put inside of you to do.
Yes. That's the beautiful thing. I love that because there's a lot of people that they jump out. I heard, again, most of my analogies or stories are around ministry because it's what I've done for so long. But I heard a preacher one time say the thing that he saw that hurt young preachers the most was when they got released too early. Yeah. And there is times where like we jump out there, we go for it, we knock a door down that he wasn't opening, and then we get out there and realize this wasn't, what have I, you kind of make a mess, you kind of make a mistake, but the Lord's so gracious in redeeming this stuff. You talked about it even the last week. He's just so gracious. Like, there's just grace for this stuff. And I mean, look at stories. Look at whoever. Look at the story of Moses. Look at the story of Joseph. Look at the story of
Abraham Lincoln.
Look at the story of Jonah, who was like, dude, I'm out of here. The Lord, finally got him back to where he wanted him, and he was gracious in it.
I love what you wrote in this chapter, Nothing to Prove. It says, let him build the house while you focus on being a great son or daughter. Let that be what matters most.
I think a lot of pressure comes in our life because we're on this thing of trying to prove ourselves as a leader, prove ourselves as whatever we want to be successful,
qualified,
adequate. And really at the end of the day, the Lord just says, you have nothing to prove. You're a son or a daughter. Be okay with that. Yep. Like, just really find your rest and your security in that right there. And the rest, everything else is just an outflow of the fact that I'm a son or a daughter. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter if I'm on stage leading worship. It doesn't matter if I'm leading this huge thing. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm a son or a daughter at the end of the day. Yep. Well, I'm just a son, not a daughter. We are sons or daughters at the end of the day.
I remember at a conference one time, our son, Taylor, the security guys stop him at the door or whatnot. And so he got a name badge, and it said all access, but where you put your name, he wrote Danny Silk's son.
That's awesome.
That's all I need to get in. I have all access.
He was secure. That's exactly right. I love that. I love it. Well, listen, thank you guys so much for joining us for the Chapter 4 book discussion. Really, really encouraged by already just the conversations they're having, praying that it really has an impact in your life. Again, I'd encourage you, go take a minute, sit down with the Lord, talk to some friends, and just process what God's showing you.